Hello and welcome back to MSI Paris 2018. Game 3 of Flash Wolves versus Kingzone is up next. We are 1-1 in this series. Kingzone kind of picked top lane Game 1. They won that Con versus Hanabi matchup. Game 2, though, a new look for Flash Wolves on the same side, bringing the tanks, bringing the team fighting, and better execution led them to that victory.
Yeah, I mean, they drafted a bit more for late game and 5v5 stability, and by winning the Dragon skirmish, 4 versus 5, they propelled themselves to that state much earlier than we would think. They went from at 10 minutes a 200 gold lead to at 15 minutes a 3,300 gold lead.
I mean, to say it all fell into place would be to undersell just how clean it was from Kingzone making obvious decision-making mistakes, whether it was Gorilla going in or the Camille going in. Both those things happening was just a death knell for what Kingzone was trying to play. That's why it's so interesting that we jump into game number 3 champ select and Flash Wolves have chosen the red side, because they've already shown that in a tank versus carry matchup, Hanabi's doing just fine. Does that just mean you hold on to that red side last pick for the support?
I really like you bringing up the mistakes of Kingzone, Papa Smithy, because people tuning in to only international tournaments so used to SK Telecom, playing from behind and always feeling like they're in control, always having that late game poise, but Kingzone actually seemed to be a bit flustered.
And that's not Kingzone, I agree with you. SKT were always the impervious ones. Kingzone didn't really have to be fighting from behind. They had such a dominant regular season split. But we should also mention that this tournament meta, and just currently where we're at, there isn't a lot of comebacks. It's actually very difficult to come back from the 10, 15,000 gold leads that SKT almost routinely were able to in years past.
I mean, certainly 10, 15,000 gold, one of the most extreme marks you try to come back from.
Done it again.
And I agree, teams like SKT had perfected that more slow style, but you can see this draft very different. 3 jungle bans setting up for maybe a Graves first pick for the LCK.
The jungle focus here is so clear from Kingzone. They know who they want to attack. One of the rookies here on Flash Wolves, Moojin, has been so good for this team that they have thrown 3 bans at him right out of the gate.
I would have loved to see in a player camp as that happened, because some people smile when they know they're the one taking all the bans, and some people cower. We don't have enough data about Moojin to know where he lands. So a big change away. It's been a Kha'Zix ban every game by Kingzone. Graves, that was banned by them previously. The Malzahar, the other ban that had to be foregone, of course, with everything changing with the switch from red to blue side.
Yeah, a lot opening up in the solo lanes because of this switch in focus and this switch in strategy from Kingzone. Now they're still gonna stick with the Ezreal into Kai'Sa matchup. They like that one.
And of course, you go by pick rates. Moojin will go for a Trundle here. He's actually played it 4 times already at MSI. He's actually most played for what that one's worth, so we'll see if that's one that Kingzone are happy to give away.
Exactly. The Trundle and Olaf's kind of the trade of junglers that has been left up here as far as the high tier. And that is a trade in tempo. Usually Olaf, especially if you're able to innovate, if your team is well set up to start you with a good early path, can try and take advantage of a Trundle early.
See the crowd responding to the Evelyn hover here. I think the Camille would have been a very interesting discussion point. Wait and see what the decision is. They go for a very early Braum. It's looking at the Tahm Kench, remember, is open, and they do take the Braum here and decide, let's go roll back this bot lane to the Flash Wolves. I think Kingzone is saying, if we can have pushing, if we can have control in the 2v2, if they're on Kai'Sa, we can play our early game plan, and with a Taliyah lock-in, the early game plan is coming together.
Definitely agree. I mean, SwordArt on the Braum last game was extremely good, but you can see no hesitation from Kingzone. Immediately go for the Trundle, immediately go for BDD's Taliyah, feels so comfortable on taking control mid and then moving across the map with this champion. We'll see if they can actually execute though.
And Flash Wolves going to wait a while on their jungle pick. They can potentially withstand now 6 jungle bans. Oh, Yasuo shows up, and you'd have to believe it's for the mid lane matchup here. Though Maple has yet to play at MSI, I don't think you blind Yasuo top for any reason, unless he somehow miraculously shows up into a good matchup. But still, gonna be exciting to watch.
Definitely think it's intended for mid lane, but like you say, Frick, could always be flexed to the top lane. And the reason why I like it more than the Zoe that we saw hovered is that with the jungle bans already, Taliyah Trundle with a Zoe on the other side. It was actually quite difficult to win the skirmishes with just a jungle pick there. Zoe needs a winning jungler, I think, to win that 2v2. That was going to get tricky. They didn't want to go for any headaches. Yasuo, with any sort of setup, can make a lot of things happen, and maybe even a Gragas will be considered for the side of Flash Wolves.
It's very interesting because Kingzone are pretty clearly trying to force Flash Wolves into an Olaf pick here by not banning out any more junglers that you think they would continue to whittle down that champion pool. And they've kind of left this matchup open. Even though Moojin hasn't played it here at MSI, he does have a lifetime 3 professional games on Olaf with ADC and KDA, so he's very well equipped to take the champion if they really force the issue.
If you need any more obvious,
yeah, they're like, please,
it's with the
Olaf.
Sejuani ban. Well, the only Sejuani we've seen since the group stage started was a support Sejuani.
And of course, we've seen Zach as the champion as well, but doing so would see a lot of early pressure. Zach, very frail in the early levels, takes a lot of damage here. So
there we go.
Will be what Moojin moves to here. Another early game pressure jungler has a knockup on the kid as well. So still something to bring out here to have early pressure and set up Maple's Yasuo.
Everybody loves a good Lee Sin, Papa. And the kick is something that he can set up Yasuo with. You mentioned the Gragas, but Lee Sin can be right there with him.
It is, of course, a frustration for Kingzone because they thought they'd shut down a Lee Sin when they played RNG in the group stage, and then lane ganks was still the way for MLXG to take that game over. Now we're looking for Kingzone to round out the job. They thought they'd be invading an Olaf. They thought they'd be invading a Zach. The plan has changed. Let's see where the draft changes for Kingzone.
See that very slim pick and ban right there for Lee Sin. I believe he's actually 1 and 2 at MSI so far. And they throw down the gauntlet. One that turns into a hammer and turns back into a cannon. Khan on his trademark pick, the Jayce to blind to the top lane.
Undefeated in 2018 on the Jayce. Only a handful of defeats ever on this Kingzone side. Khan's Jayce needs no interruption, but this is the one matchup he's talked about he's not a big fan of.
He's not a big fan of it, but I was so hesitant for Flash Wolves to pick the tank in this game because there's a Trundle early on from Kingzone, plus the Jayce matchup here, which can be oppressive early.
Playing for the big team fights, playing hard crowd control with double backline. If you want to call Yasuo that, has worked so far for Flash Wolves. Yes, there are execution arrows on Kingzone's side, but barring a obvious top lane counterpick and say, okay, Sion's going to be the one to hold on.
And this is definitely a priority draft from Kingzone. Now they once again do have the push in multiple lanes. Yasuo can fight back eventually, but usually it's Phantom Dancer and at least level 6 in a Lee Sin to actually get over the line. This is again a draft where Kingzone are setting themselves up for a strong start.
Definitely true. And a lot of it is going to come down to Khan's Jayce, the iconic champion you associate with this player when he is smashing all top laners in the world. Can he do it here against the Flash Wolves at MSI, where he has had a rocky tournament? It always feels like the Jayce in this matchup has to put so much effort and never let up on the gas, never let up on the pressure, never let up on the harassment in order to actually utilize this well.
Well, I have 2 NA casters with me, and you guys know all about NA Jayce.
We've been conditioned to not approve of that matchup.
And I've been conditioned to get excited when Khan locks in the Jayce. He is on his trademark. He will have his work cut out for him, but again and again, people have walked up and tried to contest the Jayce. They've all failed.
Interestingly, Hanabi has been one of the few players who has been able to stand up to Khan. He's looked great so far in this tournament, bringing up Yasuo himself as we get ourselves into game number 3.
Exactly. Hanabi with his iconic Yasuo pick was able to hand it to Khan. Will Khan
it's a bit of a new icon.
be able to do the same? I mean, he did it when he was a solo lane, mid lane player. All right, let's take a look though. Maple now gonna be the one to have a Yasuo in his hands. And again, this has been a counter pick that has merged over at MSI. If people haven't been seeing the Yasuo into Taliyah, trying to use that mobility, especially with a jungler like Lee Sin, you can threaten kill pressure on the mid lane, and warding becomes very, very important. Here we go, the level 1 invade is actually circling around.
You see basically every blue side team make this same invade. It almost seems like the blind top side invade is the safest level 1 for a blue side team to guarantee a strong quadrant of the map. So once again it happens. Very deep vision answered by Flash Wolves. Get any information but a re-entrance to the red side jungle for Kai'Sa.
All right, so both these red buffs spotted. And looks like Moojin's going to sit on the red buff himself and will not be answered too easily. Nice little bit of damage comes out
Yeah,
BDD.
it's hard to dodge Taliyah's spells if there's no minions around. Usually you'll see the Yasuo using Sweeping Blade.
Oh, Prey is going to go for a Q to help. He's walking right on top of the champions. He might not have a way out. The stun is on Ignite as well. There is no escape, and Prey goes down.
Beautiful step up for Flash Wolves. They actually hug the brush there by the Krug. They know that Prey with the level 1 Mystic Shot can check the brush. They're expecting Lee Sin to start at his blue and then go bot side. They knew about the vertical jungling, even for Kingzone.
Oh my goodness, what a start here. And this after such a one-sided game number 2. You can hear even the crowd behind them, everything channeling their power for Flash Wolves.
It's almost the entire world wants to see a Korean team lose a best of 5. It happens so rarely. Prey does not expect this play at all.
Expecting someone to walk up, doesn't hit Moojin with the Q, doesn't use a summon now. He has someone to teleport, so the lead is not actually felt. It's a small amount of experience, but obviously no gold could be spent by Betty when it comes to the lane.
Those are the things that make solo queuers cry cheese, yet it's good preparation, and it is a good surprise tactic. Because they were in the bush also, as you mentioned, Moojin had vision of them, so he could see the Mystic Shot, dodges it out. There was absolutely everything gained there for Flash.
And we're in France, Kobe. It's finally aged French cheese. And isn't it delicious for the side of Flash?
Well, you take that cheese and you stuff it down their throats. Top side, though, everyone from Kingzone is trying to make a move.
Early move, 3 versus 1 up here, and only level 2 on this poor Sion. Can he do anything about this one? It's going to be aggro pulled by Jayce. Khan backs up. One more turret shot with the damage output, just not there. Is there going to be a re-engage? Now Peanuts time to pull it, gets the chunk, gets right back out. BDD gets the credit and an answer on the top side.
Hanabi Zombie was able to get back up and get the cannon minion for himself at least, but that is Kingzone. Barely, if not, you know, pulling off that dive.
It doesn't actually deny CS. He actually ends up coming back to lane with just about the same amount of gold, apart from the assist coming through for the Jayce. No double longsword there. So the Zombie actually gets a lot of value.
Yep, definitely one of the pros of playing Sion and getting dope early on. Flash Wolves still with the decent gold lead here, holding on to the extra gold from their first blood. Let's take a look at this dive one more time.
We can't even repeat what Khan said about facing Sion as Jayce. It's not broadcast appropriate. We know about the extra tankiness that Sion will always have. It's well executed by Kingzone, and yet they still need to use extra things like the flash from Peanut to actually pull it off, because Sion, he doesn't go down without a fight.
Right, they're not unable to take him down in the first attempt, so they drop tower aggro, able to reacquire it onto Peanut, who has flash, and the jungler willing to utilize his to get out of tower range rather than having someone else like BDD, you know, more vulnerable laner spending theirs for it.
And speaking of reacquiring, though, the time to go back top lane could be now. Hanabi is summonerless. There's still double summoners for Khan. BDD on the way up, but does it matter that he knows there's good damage coming through? BDD still walking up. The Trundle coming in as well. They finally decided to turn it around, but does Sion even get to play League of Legends anymore?
Really love how the observers pulled out and highlighted the ward, because another 4-5 seconds, it's definitely a kill. Just the extra information there allowed him to start walking back as if he had the map hacked.
So it's a forced recall and a walk back to the lane. Khan can shove that in without much of an issue. But even then, Flash will at least get some kind of answer with the jungler spotted topside twice in a row. They get the chicken steal here.
Maple definitely the mid laner you want as a jungler. He helps out with almost every Raptor steal for Moojin. And Moojin repaying in kind. Plenty of control here around mid lane.
Kingzone are trying to move their control from top side to bot side now. That's why you see Peanut and BDD invading the bot side river. We already saw there's a deep control ward. We saw the Raptors get taken away. Traditionally, you'd like to have control of the top side if you could choose, so that Jayce can push freely with no threat of a gank from the enemy jungler. Now they're at least playing around with playing both sides of the map.
And BDD was the one to get the last hit in their top lane move as well. So we'd expect him, as soon as he gets to his level 6, he has both summoners available, try and push in, try and open up some opportunity for Kingzone to play proactively.
And you can see he's already done the hard work. There's almost no way to get to top side without being spotted by one of the 2 control wards. So this is Jayce with full control of the lane. Big difference from solo queue Jayce, of course. Now your team coming in, setting you up so successfully to either prune the wave, to push it, to pull it back. You can do anything you want here as Khan, because you have no worries at all.
We'll see what he actually gains out of that one. Right now, it is not a farm advantage, despite that death from before. If If turret pressure comes in, if pushing up and allowing Peanut to invade comes through, that'll be a big advantage that Kingzone looks for. The 1v1 might not change in and of itself too sharply. Right now, Maple shoving into mid lane. BDD still holding on to this farm. Only down 5, despite the fact that he roamed up twice. And the fact that Raptors were stolen as well. So.
He's roamed twice, Freak, but he's actually not backed yet. He still has been out on the map for 6 minutes 45. It's only a dagger he's against, so it's not a significant lead. But this BDD sacrificing his own shops to try to help his lane.
Here we go, though. The level 6 duo, Yasuo and Lee Sin. Ultimates available, looking for the invade. Peanut sees them on the control ward, but again, this is a 2-level advantage currently.
4 people down here. Teleport not available for either top side, so 4 is the only number you really need. The deep ward comes down, but the red already taken. Flash just a little bit slow to the invade.
Time was wasted. Ended up being too late, like you mentioned, Freak, and that means they can try to fall back to the Drake. They feel like they should have got a bigger advantage given where the levels were, but they were a step behind the play.
Yeah, Peanut happy to get away his own red, but again, Moojin takes down the Cloud Drake, gonna add that extra move speed here for Flash Wolves to try and react across this map.
Cloud Drake will not be contested as the bot lane keeps the pressure on, so Flash Wolves gets that one without too many issues. 7:38, that one goes down, and move speed now here for the team. Maple just plays the defensive side of this lane, and again, BDD looks towards the top side. The Flash still down for a few moments. And Hanabi actually has to run away from this one. That's even a delayed recall, so that top lane pressure now is pushing forward. The farm lane's pretty big, but now look to the bottom lane. Killer Instinct in, high damage on the prey. That's gonna be the knockup. Godfish Lee Sin takes down his believers.
And he lays it down into the bottom lane. Prey not gonna be on the map. Full bottom lane control yet again for Flash Wolves, allowing this Kai'Sa not only to scale, but to dance as well. Everyone is feeling it.
Execution beautiful, that flash for the kick, then went into the queue top side, trying to answer as well.
And here comes Weaver's Wall, 3 versus 1, no escape there, kill goes to Khan.
Pillar interrupted the exit route coming through from the Sion, so he goes down. It's gonna be a turret trade. We saw a very big lead in terms of the start of this turret damage, but with the minion wave coming back, they might actually have to invest more to get this turret.
Both teams have placed their bets. Flash Wolves on bottom lane, Kingzone on top lane, and Flash Wolves are doubling down.
That is first turret there, Khan getting some of the gold there in this one. The rest of the Kingzone duo sitting back far enough to not give away some kills.
It's a very small win. We should notice the Yasuo was supposed to be getting free farm in mid and maybe some autos while this happened. Because Gorilla and Prey got to lane, it took the extra time. They needed to invest the Yasuo's time, and that's the small, very small 0.1 that Kingzone were overall on the map play able to take from the side of Flash Wolves.
Now we reset into this game as 2 of these side lane turrets have fallen. Gold difference, pretty slim, only about 1,000. Still one that does matter. You can see a gigantic farm difference at the top side. Khan is starting to really press ahead.
Exactly, Freak. You mentioned it, 1,000 gold difference. All of that 1,000 gold difference shows up in the top lane matchup. Khan is 1,000 ahead of Hanabi right now, and that is where Kingzone really need to play off of. They put everything into this champion. They want to keep up the pressure. They want to utilize that advantage.
Watch the replay of this turret dive. Started with just the Killer Instinct, but I want to watch Moojin. He takes it in, flashes early. There is no frame to respond there for the Ezreal. He had flash up, it didn't matter. Nice execution.
Hand of God takes no chances. They finish it off. Quick work, though, is going to cause the rotation here for Flash Wolves up to mid lane. They bring most of the rest of the stragglers here to be able to join. I was surprised to see Hanabi even on the Sion here. The possible ultimate is not available, so it's not like they're going to have him charging ahead for a dive.
But he doesn't really want to be in lane against the Jayce with 2 finished items here, working towards, I would imagine will be Youmuu's first for the Jayce, so he decides to just wait until the minion wave is pushed in. There is a fallback objective here for Kingzone on the top side, the Rift Herald that Muscurin mentioned, always been a heavy priority for them between 15 and 20. When you have a Jayce against a Sion, you're definitely looking forward to picking up the Rift Herald for yourself.
Yeah, Rift Herald also so easy to take when you've had early game leads in almost all the games in group stages. Right now, though, we are going to have a little bit of vision in mid here as Moojin goes.
Knocked right back out by Khan. Traded the ultimate, though. He did kick back. Of course, an easier cooldown for Khan to get rid of.
Last Breath acquisition range got buffed a few patches ago before the Yasuo meta was upon us. Have to remember that the instant kick into ultimate is available, so a little disengaged there by Khan.
And as that one resets, Prey walks back into lane. Bottom lane has actually been one of the big sources of power for Flash Wolves. You mentioned execution difficulties. Most of the deaths in that game too did come from the Kingzone bot side. It's been 3 straight first bloods for Flash Wolves in the bottom lane as well. They've gotten a lot kind of taking down their opponents there. This one though stabilized a little bit. The gold lead in the bot lane not that big considering the farm and kill difference.
Looks like Sion was seeding top side to some degree, Kingzone seeding bottom. Hanover really extend a huge CS lead over in Ezreal. Too many range farming abilities, too safe with the teleport to be up on the map so much. Meanwhile, top side, we see Khan again for the first time. Hasn't spent his gold, but I imagine a nice purchase coming for him in the near future.
Yep, and they're working around his pressure that he's been able to carve out on this map. Constantly pushing in. Sion allows for an easy Rift Herald take, and there you go.
And you know what the best thing is for Khan in this tournament? Not really expected to be teleporting into too many team fights to Jayce. It's about pressure in lane. It's about forcing the enemy to react and using map control rather than 5v5s. The Kingzone, honestly, if I look back and I think back to all the games of Kingzone in the regular season, very few games were about a team fight. They were about pressure. They were about no-go zones for the enemy. That's what the Jayce is usually going to be providing for the side of Kingzone.
We'll have to check in if Kingzone are the ones feeling the pressure in their play. Once we get to the skirmishes, will there be no more missed abilities, more mistimed teleports that have plagued them throughout this tournament?
Papa Smithy, you mentioned no-go zones. We're seeing the map be split up a little bit. Red buff steal coming in soon for the top lane with that Rift Herald grabbed as well. You saw the same thing in the bottom side, though. It's Betty and SwordArt ahead on the 2-on-2. Now actually switching the lanes around as they've put Maple down here once they've already stolen that red away. And in 35 seconds, as Cloud Drake spawns, Flash got the first one already from their bot lane pressure. We'll see if they get more of these Drakes stacked up as a result of that as well.
Their item timings right now to dwarf what Kingzone has put together. We've seen BDD piece together items, gone for odd back timings. Eventually we'll have an Archangels coming along, but there is Phantom Dance. There is already a Rage Blade. I think Flash was a team fight ready, especially in the 4v4. Khan, his item lead is not about team fights, so that means the Kingzone need to be respected.
Yep, Flash Wolves rotating their duo up through the river here, trying to fight for some vision, and this could be the side of a little bit more.
Oh, they might catch out Khan. A good flash gets him to safety despite the pillar for partial disengage, but that's now a big summoner down from a very squishy top laner. Look at all this pressure now. They can look for this turret.
Yeah, that's going to completely zone them off of this top lane turret. Flash Wolves going to take another outer.
And that doesn't usually happen because they saw the Trundle. They knew Rift Herald couldn't be summoned in another lane straight away. They eventually pushed from the turret, waiting for the Rift Herald summon here from Peanut. Will be used in the mid lane to draw Flash Wolves.
And no one's bot lane as well, so BDD able to shove the wave in. No one's grabbing that farm here, but the collapse on mid instead. BDD is walking up. Going for the Drake actually alongside his jungler. No flank adder.
It's definitely a good sleight of hand here from Kingzone. They dropped the Rift Herald only to drop back to the Dragon objective, not exposing themselves for that engagement the Flash Wolves are looking for.
And this all comes back again from Jayce getting the jungle patrol, triangle of control wards, taking the turret and the lead and the Rift Herald that's forced Kingzone to trade up. Flash Wolves haven't been able to trade up because that extra variable has been expertly used by Kingzone.
I really like that last set of movements from Kingzone. They move across the entire map to be able to outmaneuver Flash Wolves and be able to take that dragon. In the end, though, Flash Wolves return to the top side, and they're going to be trading turrets.
Yeah, you're seeing another example of outmaneuvering, though. This is 3 waves in a row lost on this bottom lane that Sion can't touch right here, as Flash Wolves are, though, as you mentioned, able to trade turrets.
This is actually a really hype trade. It won't be too many people at home, but what we see is the team comes together, takes a turret on the side of Kingzone, and solo gold goes over to the side of Betty on the top side. They know what Flash Wolves want to do. They want a team fight, whereas Kingzone, they're trying to extend them and get the objectives of the team. They know they're not going to 5v5.
Flash Wolves are being caught in transition here, though, while Kingzone are doing work with every second of those champions. We just saw Maple on the Yasuo, back and forth between mid lane. Moojin as well as SwordArt just kind of walking between the turrets, not really getting any sort of objective done, whereas Kingzone, the plan is clear. Now it's mid.
The wall is up, stopped down by the wind wall, but there's still going to be the chance of the turret going down. They're going to get yet another one. Teleport comes in, Hanabi wants in. How is this fight going to go? And Pillar completely stuffs him, and the hype train goes back off the tracks.
To see Peanut smiling, second time a Pillar has stuffed. First an escape from Hanabi, and now also a collapse. They're able to once again go back to extending the map with no casualties whatsoever.
Teleport coming in to defend this turret, though. Khan off of the wings as well. Oof. a chunk down on Maple, and over the last 3 minutes, Kingzone has taken so much more. A good dodge to the side, but flashless. This is going to be a kill. Last breath is in, and it's just that for Khan, his first death of the game.
Flashless finally grabbed something to give them some momentum on this map. If it wasn't for that, as you were saying, Freak, I was chalking up the objectives here. It was Kingzone, 2 turrets on the bottom side, plus the Elemental Drake, plus the turret in mid lane.
Reminder to Khan, if you're gonna die, I want to see isolated deaths. No walking around to try to poke in mid lane and then die. He put down an EQ and died because of it, because his flash was down. He needs to be in those side lanes, just decides to try to help the team with a morale boost and getting a chunk on Yasuo, and gives up his life.
All right, let's take another look at this replay. Khan fired off that shock blast, and it anchored the Flash Wolves, even though he sidestepped the Lee Sin Q. SwordArt able to land his own on Braum, and that's enough to allow them to close.
I actually spent 3 ultimates on that. You actually saw the Lee Sin walk behind and go for the kick as well, just to really, really make sure Khan was going down.
If Kingzone had been staying out of reach for the past 3 minutes, outmaneuvering them around the map, you can definitely see why they'd be willing to throw everything they have at the wall.
Yeah.
Catharsis for sure.
Well, we've reset the map once again. Still 4-2 in turrets. Kingzone outmaneuvered around the 12-minute mark, getting that Cloud Drake unanswered as well. Flashes have to realize that they have given up a lot recently. Just that one kill kind of marking something positive for them. We reset back on the map. This gold lead, 1,500. Pretty sizable on the Kingzone side. Something to be happy about if you're a Kingzone fan. That Jayce working very well. A 40 farm lead, part of a lot of these turret kills now. This fight in the top side is Maple looks for a little something, but in 1v2 must hide behind the wind wall.
Big issue for Kingzone when this game goes along is that they will clearly want Jayce in the side lane against Sion. He's going for Black Cleaver, second item here. Watching Peanut be chased down. Should be able to back away. Here we go, though.
Ooh, nice knock up there in the front line. Maple could be falling, but gets to go back. A quick jump towards SwordArt, goes right back to the team. The Chase is going to be in. A huge knockup. There's the re-engage, but Maple is down. However, it is a trade. In the backline, BDD grabs one on the Taliyah. This fight continuing. Trey will drop now 3v3 on the fight, as a lot is still coming through. Buddy with the red buff looking for a bit more, but they're running out of teammates. This Sion going to be chained down. This will be a 4-for-2 advantage over to Kingzone.
Kingzone get a tremendous amount of kills here, but there are no objectives on the map for them to take. No one can get over to that bottom minion wave. There's no dragon. Nothing is left for them to game afterwards.
And I love that you start with the sobering, but I'm going to look at the elation for the Kingzone players, because they haven't drafted for Fiverr. They haven't drafted for these scenarios. Watch BDD this fight. He puts out way more damage than you would expect on a Taliyah in one of these scenarios. It goes along. It looks like it's going to be a disengage. They go for the re-engage, and Taliyah is free hitting the entire time.
Yeah, we're able to start it off here with Gorilla on the Rakan, keeps Maple in check, but then, there it is, pops the stick. In the end, they get a 4-for-2 to get some more money in their pockets.
Look at that.
4,030 damage when the wind wall was perfectly used. It's insane for a Taliyah in a team fight like that.
And some of that is Maple getting chunked at the very beginning and dying, just getting only last breath off. Certainly, mid lane difference was a huge deal in that fight. Flash will need a lot more out of Maple if they want to win this game. Yasuo, their mid laner, highest level, needs to get stuff done.
Now the stakes have been raised, though. We talked about how empty the map was after that last victory for Kingzone. Throw another Cloud Drake onto there, throw Baron onto the map, and the next team fight will have long-reaching implications.
Third Cloud Drake spawning right now. They're both tied 1-1. Vision control could make Gorilla a target. Slowed down. Here comes the rest of the team. Jumps back to the squad. And yeah, finds his escape tools. Not a problem there, but he's now missing a couple of cooldowns. Flash was once again playing with the fog of war, looking at what wards might be around. Some damage to this Cloud Drake.
Very hard for them to walk up like this. Jayce reveals himself. Bot lane, they know that a kick could just spell doom and a Yasuo ultimate. So very, very tricky to actually contest vision when Jayce doesn't want to be grouped 5v5.
So many summoners burned in that last fight as well. The carries are going to have to play a lot more carefully. Here we go, the Dragon being started up. It gets burned down very quickly, but they're on to Hanabi on the top side.
Hanabi might be okay trading his life for a Drake, but the Drake resets anyway, but quickness being burned on Gorilla is actually a pretty important cooldown to miss out. The AoE ground control is gone. Wall cut off by Wind Wall, but that means they don't have that combat tool, so Cloud Drake will be picked up. The poke out from Khan as well, and Kingzone yet again find the way to outmaneuver their opposition.
They're able to chunk down Hanabi on the top side. They use Gorilla's engagement to get a huge chunk and then attempt the Weaver's Wall to cut them off. In the end, Drake acquired mid lane push as well. Down, oh, not gonna back on this one.
Didn't even mention it, but we see Windwall and also the Braum Unbreakable, the two tools that short the wall from BDD. It's why, once again, his role in the last team fight was so strong. But when it comes to the objectives plays, they're usually so clean. Weaver's Wall behind the turret, take the turret, that's gonna be hard.
SwordArt really aggressive at the front, finds the double knockup. Is there gonna be the re-engage they need though, because the squad is coming in for this fight. Moojin, will he find the kick? Goes for the Q into the back line. The knockup, but it only gets onto one as the team disengages. Maple exhausted, forced to run. One hit will kill him, and Gorilla claims that one, so now it's a 5v4. Kingzone look for the re-engage. They find Benny. Khan gets the kill. Now on to Moojin. He's running for dear life. Can they find the crowd control? Looking for a teammate to jump 2 Qs to the Wolves. Of course they're on his team. It's in the name in the first place. Just back to the squad. Out they go. Not a further knockup. Still a 2-0 for Kingzone.
And this time around, Baron is available. Kingzone can transition over and hold this vision advantage. Will Flash Wolf drop too close?
The defensive flashes there actually worth the lifespan for the side of Kingzone. Allowed them to turn on, but now we're at Baron. See how the Baron setup is here. Moojin is lurking.
Lots of trigger wards available, no denial in the pit. Can Moojin get this smite? This turret has been made and broken on smites and Baron attempts. That ward will not go away. Moojin has complete victory, or vision I should say.
They're holding it
for the
so
play.
low.
They're getting a bit lower. Can Moojin find the play? The Q has been burned though. Here's the engage, not yet the knockup, jumps to a ward. Found out though, and Prey will knock down the Godfist as the Baron's getting lower. They finally pick it up, but the fight still going the way of Kingzone as they came back with the buff in their hand.
The Baron down, it's a burn damage. Trundle was dead and still gets the credit. Kingzone were not opening up a 50-50, but they had to take collateral damage to kill the damn Baron.
They held the Baron for so long, wary of Moojin sneaking in and stealing. In the end, they are able to take it down, no matter how arduous that fight was.
And it's still worth it because, again, a grouped 5v5 is how Flash Wolves wins the game. Baron is the place you have group 5v5s, but the patience here for Kingzone, who has so many members so low, this was tricky for them.
Prey first tries to chase off SwordArt, gets him out of the fight. Then they're trying to look for an angle here onto the Lee Sin on Moojin, and he has to get some angle towards the Baron. In the end, expends the safeguard there, running away from Gorilla. And take a look at this. If Baron kills Peanut,
watch the Baron.
22, 41,
one health.
BDD throwing another rock there, gets it low enough to die in the end for Peanut. And now, with the Baron buff, what can Kingzone do? Because this is what will empower their type of composition. Let's see, BDD's got one, Gorilla seems to have one. Important though, was Khan still alive?
Wasn't able to track that. He's got a pretty long recall time, so my first thought is no.
Nope.
No, it's only the 2 Barons you mentioned, Kobe. So getting it off the map, again, against a 5v5 comp, just getting Baron off the map when they have a siege split push comp is still good news for Kingzone. But it still feels like there's a team fight with only a 5,000 gold lead where Flash Wolves rewrites the story.
I'm glad you returned the story to the team fight, Papa Smithy, because that fight from Flash Wolves that caused this entire chain of dominoes to occur was very poorly played. They reinitiated without Hanabi there. They didn't have their tank, and Kingzone came up with a huge punish. And now, let's see how far they can actually go.
Very slight power drop in Prey's build, only on Arcane. Doesn't have the full mana to AP conversion. Of course, Seraph's not far away, but up until then, slightly down in power. We've got 2 pretty big items in near Infinity Edge for Betty. He's actually only 600 gold away from completing that. That'll be a huge power spike and has been one of the major carries. Of course, we're on 2 big items in Yasuo as well. You mentioned the 5v5s can be scary even despite the gold lead. I agree. Flash Wolves have explosive damage available. Frozen Heart, lots of durability on this front line for Hanabi as well. Kingzone walking forward for the siege. They've got that Baron buff on Gorilla to push in. Prey could auto. And we'll start getting damage to this turret here.
Jayce been pushing in bot side. Takes a long time to actually get to the inhibitor turret. You can see Flash will do seed. This mid lane inner turret, they're going to have to give that one up. Baron buff, only another 30 seconds, so pretty much the last wave for Kingzone to keep pushing.
I really like how they're using BDD to hover topside and Gorilla to empower the minion wave in mid. That way they're able to get all of these outers done with and increase their gold lead first.
One might block off some of the rotations here as they continue to siege topside 4 versus temporarily 3. Moojin on the wrong side of that one as it falls.
Keep track of the wall cooldimers. Actually, Khan on the bottom side is almost done with that inhibitor turret.
Accomplishing a lot on that bottom lane as the top lane siege continues as well. Baron timing out in 5 seconds. Will that signal a re-engage for Flash Wolves? Not before the turret falls, as they're going to give up for the inhibitor, but now Khan has to run away. Still Flash on cooldown for a few more moments. Waiting for that timer to come back, though. Getting away at 200 HP. The Flash, the Yo, the slap into the face, and that will be a solo kill. A little bit of help because of Betty on the side, but top inhibitor is down. Now will there be a re-engage? No, they're going to get away for this one. Oh, the chase, though. Maybe he can stop the recall. Yes, they all turn it around, and Maple bit off more than he could chew.
That was definitely some masturbating right there. Oh, boy. Clean stuff from Kingzone. They don't play recall. Unfortunately, I've KO'd Kobe. He's out for a little bit, not sure why. Kingzone get that extra kill. Remember, they had to use Flash on Hanabi to actually go for the kill. The Void Seeker hit, but he wasn't in range to use the Killer Instinct to pass the kill to Betty. However, Flash Wolves, with everything falling away, can jump onto the ocean.
Yeah, they'll take the consolation prize down here, but Kingzone very happy with the work that they were able to get done during that Baron. And you can see it in his eyes a long ways away, Papa. He can use a minion wave to chase, but that's a classic Yasuo right there.
That second dash. Oh.
It's like, they'll go ahead and recall. They're going to finish the recall, so I'll get my chase down.
Yeah.
But no, they cut it off, and now they're looking to cut off the last inhibitor turret as well.
Siege is here in the mid lane. A quick channel for Hanabi. Can't find the engage just yet. It's slow on the Peanut, but no hard push just yet. Sion's got to hold the front line. They need a good ultimate. That last breath could make the back line die with a good kick.
Moojin needs to be the facilitator for that. They know teleport's on Jayce, otherwise Sion's actually going to come from the backside.
All right, teleport looking for the play, but Weaver's wall is in. BDD to stop him, and actually immediately cancels the unstoppable onslaught. There's the knockup. They've isolated Sion. He will drop, and there's going to be the backline access. Killer Instinct did what Maple could not. This is the huge fight for Flash Wolves. BDD fall. It's 3 for 1. What a battle!
And Hanabi sacrifices his life to force the 5-on-5 team fight Flash Wolves needed to stay in this game.
Moojin still going to the backside, got the kick, and that's all that was needed for the Killer Instinct to follow. They're going to roll through and probably get an inhibitor here.
Betty had the Infinity Edge done and was in range to follow up the Lee Sin kick. We all thought about the Yasuo, but it was the assassination from the bot lane that led him to +2 kills and 2 turrets in mid.
Doesn't actually end up being the inhibitor because of the collateral damage already done top. Baron buff spawning in 50 seconds. They'll get the first look at vision there. They'll have to fall back. That's a preview of the team fights we've been alluding to for the better part of 28 minutes. It's all about getting backline access, and like you say, Hanabi had to give up his life to even give them a chance.
A worthy sacrifice here. Sion gonna get 2 lives. He goes in, as you said, BDD cancels him immediately, and then he gets focused down, but you still have to respect the arrival. Betty, Killer Instinct into the back line, destroys Prey before he even turns around.
From there, of course, the dominoes fall one by one. Dominoes, an analogy we've used a lot today. That is the sort of fight the Flash Wolves have been frustrated upon for a long, long time. See the damage dealt here. Wasn't even the Yasuo. All about Betty.
Yeah, still did a good job in the front line as well. A great SwordArt ultimate managed to set up the big ult in front.
And 1,250 of that Sion damage was done in zombie mode.
Oh, yeah. That's why you run Glacial Augment.
Glacial Augment allows you to go for that chase down, and he was able to get off quite a few punches.
So the items still filtering in for Flash Wolves. QSS now for Betty, and Seraph's Gage in for Yasuo. Looking back at Kingzone, though. We are now at Seraph's Embrace. That shield should help a lot with the durability. Life still in for the Ruin King as well. Frey might not be assassinated so easily again.
We are now at Jayce with no teleport to match him in the bot side. It's mid lane.
Oh, he doesn't catch out Betty. That's still a free firing Kai'Sa, but still, they will knock down Hanabi right away. Gets shattered in the front of the team fight. And this time around, there is no assassination.
Great jump there by Kingzone. They take out the front line from Flash Wolves, and now they've got an open path.
This could be really explosive with top inhibitor still dead, and very low turrets in the middle and bottom lane. This 5v4 could be game-winning as the walls come up, but the turrets still don't fall. Another comes in and separates the team. 5v4, here comes the hard engage. Betty stays alive, but last breath means almost nothing. He will give away his right now as Maple has nowhere to go. 5v3 in the base with 4 to take.
They're gonna go for the end here. That's all they needed. It's a couple of kills, try to end the game.
Betty's got to make the miracle play now, but it might just not be enough. The turrets to fall. Here's the kicks to the back line, but can they find the kills? Betty trying to kite, and he doesn't have it. Kingzone get the team fight. They make it happen. 2-1 will be the lead. One more for the final.
Man, did they have to work for it in this series, but Kingzone are going to move up 2-1.
In Kingzone we trust. Read one of those fan signs. This is the comp that has been their bread and butter ever since Khan and BDD came online on this team. Even before Peanut joined them this year, they were all about winning with that Jayce. It still was the prototypical Jayce game, but that one failed execution in mid lane was the sort of thing they were avoiding the entire game. They only really had one mulligan this game. They used it, but they did close the game.
Exactly. In their time of need, after suffering a huge defeat in game number 2, they turned to Khan's Jayce, and they're able to find it.
Jayce on Khan, very, very well played. Gorilla, I think, had a sort of transformative experience here as well. He had looked so bad in game 2. He and Frey were constantly picked on, but Gorilla was great here. 1, 1, and 12 there. I mean, 13 out of the 15 KP was absolutely amazing on the Rakan. Finally got it for the first time in this series. The reason it's the most sought-after champion at MSI 2018, he looked amazing on it.
And this is a Kingzone game. This is the game we saw again and again that every LCK team couldn't stand on. It wasn't late-game team fighting. It does seem like Flash Wolves can win around those, but when it comes to map pressure, that's where they were unmatched in Korea.
Early mid-game pressure, beautiful for Kingzone here. They got away with the win 2-1 now in this, but to get their thoughts on how this game 3 played out, let's send it down to the State Farm analyst desk.
Thank you very much, Freak. I am loving this tournament. Are you kidding me? As Kingzone strike back to push it to 2-1, we're seeing Yasuo's in the top and the mid. We're seeing Vladimir's in the top and the mid. Picks left and right, counters here and there. I mean, it's champion select alone, and then the way it develops within the game, this tournament is shaping up to be one of the best.
And I thought the champion select was so cool in the fact that both teams were constantly daring one another. The fact that you first rotation banned 3 junglers, the other team doesn't then take Trundle, which is what they're trying to bait them in for, and instead opts for Lee Sin on the second rotation, or sorry, in phase 2 of the pick phase. Just really cool.
And also I like when Lee Sin comes in, we started sitting here being like, wait, Jayce can knock Lee Sin back if he flies in. They ban all these other like point-and-click fight junglers. There is a chance he's actually gonna pick a Jayce here. And then he needs to blind pick, and it's like, bam, here's the Jayce. We got the Taliyah, we can go top lane. And it actually set up for Khan to finally pick it because there were so many jungle bans.
Right, he had to pick that, seeing the Yasuo on the table, right? Knowing that that could still go over to Hanabi or go to the mid lane, and yet Maple's the one to pick it up, the Sion in response. And that's where I want to set up the early game here. The idea that we have Khan on a top, on a carry top laner, and will he succeed?
Yeah, and we talked about how this is the bread and butter composition of Kingzone, and this is the bread and butter of their execution on how they play this composition. They give Khan so many more resources. I think that there were a couple of windows in the early game where they could have pushed it even harder, but as you can see, they split the map. Kingzone on the top side, Flash was in the bot.
Yeah, this is where I think Frey and Gorilla, they're used to playing this style, and yet they actually get a bit surprised when you get hit there by the first hit from Betty, so you can fly in with ult, plus the jungler shows up. But they're trading, and the goal for Flash was is, don't try and help Hanabi, he's done. Just leave him. But your mid laner then needs to pick up extra farm because he stays mid, and your bot lane needs to get ahead, and Betty did get ahead.
Yeah, and I do feel like Kingzone is getting pushed in this series because Flash Wolves committing to the bottom side is not something that LCK teams can necessarily do. Level 1, they had that clever invade, get first blood. They redove that bottom side, and they had Kai'Sa. Right? That's a terrifying thing to go against, but Kingzone doubled down on their commitment to Khan, and it did pay off in the end.
And the thing is that when Kingzone controlled the map that early and they're getting all the towers down, Deficio, we were talking about this in-between game. There was this huge window during the mid-game where Flash Wolves just had a bad read on what the lane assignments were. They were constantly not matching the pressure. Kingzone had the tempo advantage, and suddenly you have an Ezreal Taliyah composition with Jayce. They all spike in the mid game who are getting these snowballs going.
And that actually made me sad because I felt like Flash Wolves had gotten out of the early game in an okay spot. Not a great one. You're not winning. Of course, the Jayce is getting fed, but they were trading turrets. It was 2 for 2, and Kai'Sa was getting fairly fed, but they didn't want to move Betty into lanes to force like a Rift Herald play. No, they kept him bot lane to get a Rage play. Then suddenly it's Trundle getting the Rift Herald, and suddenly you start seeing Kingzone get a quite big goal lead that actually used in that next fight.
Right, but is it fair to say that Kingzone was on a clock here when it came to the time in which they needed to close out the game?
But they're the best team in the world in terms of winning the LCK, so if you put them on a clock, where their comfort, they've shown time and time again that they know exactly to play to that second.
But it is very fair to say, yes, they had to get this advantage, which is why I feel like Flash was in that okay spot until the turret start falling.
Right, so that's why I want to take a look at this mid-game for Flash Wolves and how they navigated, knowing that if they could just outlast, make it to that late game, they could possibly win this game. Some missteps here and there.
Yeah, you can see Flash Wolves outnumbered at the start of this fight. The teleport from the Sion is a little bit late. And this is another reason I don't necessarily like Cinderhulk Lee Sin. They don't actually have the burst even when they land the combo on the squishy person. He's at 75% health. They fully committed in. They don't have their shields or their front line in the right place, and the fight just falls apart.
Yeah, this ends up being such a huge part of the game because it leads to this Baron setup. And here, we were like, okay.
Oh, this was ridiculous.
There's no control. If this Sion, by the way, goes into the Baron pit, Dash, we were talking about this during the game, and gets his passive up, look how low they are. So they're not going to be able to do this, but all of Flash Wolves are like, we can't dancing around, hoping maybe we can steal. Get in there, fight them. They're going low.
Did you realize that the dead Trundle actually got the last bit of damage on the Baron? He didn't have red buff. It was at 1 health. And then I'm pretty sure that Talisman Burn from his jungle item is what took it down.
Oh my goodness.
Just get in that Baron pit. You got to
my goodness.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, we talked about it. There were probably many different ways that Flash Wolves could have played that moment, but of course that is what it means to play in an intense best-of-5, a semifinal on a world stage. You're not going to make optimal plays all the time. That said, to further drive home this point of the clock that Kingzone was on and the capability that Flash Wolves could have in winning late-game team fights, I want to push us forward to our 28-minute replay. This one does go in favor of Flash Wolves. Betty showing why Kai'Sa is such a strong pick.
And Prey plays this as well as he could have possibly done so. He almost gets out of this, but it's Moojin that follows him all the way through that then allows Betty to get into the back line.
And we're pausing the replay here on purpose to highlight one really awesome thing. Everyone right now is looking at this knocked up Trundle and where's Yasuo going. No one is thinking about Betty. So when Moojin actually gets to kick the Ezreal out of the fight, it sets up the perfect ult from Betty's side. Because again, no one is paying attention to him. So when we roll it, notice when he jumps in, he actually gets an isolated 1v1, and everyone else is in this massive pit looking at the Yasuo ult. And that's why Flash Wolves can win it. Sadly for them, because they are down. Even if you can take this one fight, if you lose the next one, which you guys can probably see from the little spike going back up towards the end, well, then you lose the game.
And unfortunately, it was kind of key situations on different members. It was the top laner Hanabi in the very last team fight, you know, that Sion getting taken down early, suddenly they lose the frontline tank, and Kingzone can just rock into the Nexus and take everything. And also Maple getting caught repeatedly right in front of the Baron. Just 2 little instances that really turned the tides.
Yeah, Flash Wolves actually felt like they were on the clock for some reason.
Like which they can scale.
It's because I think Kingzone was applying so much pressure to them that it was making them uneasy about how they're going. We talk about the lane assignments. Yasuo needs to be in side lanes getting set up. They were never able to do that. I think if Flash Wolves, they have to go away from, they can't do Yasuo again because they don't have the same level of lane priority that Kingzone has. Then they got one good fight with Yasuo in a 40-minute game.
But I would love to see this game replayed with the exact same draft, but Flash Wolves saying to themselves, hang on, we don't actually need to force too many things. We can also use our strong AD carry that we're playing around, move him around and take objectives, because that second replay we show, they're out of the fight. They can just walk it back, but they're like, nah, man, our support is low and our Sion's not here. Moojin flies in, kicks up 2 members, and that's what sets up a Baron for Kingzone later. I'm like, that's so unnecessary. Replay the game, don't make that one play, and you have a much easier time, in my opinion.
Well, here's the thing. Kingzone with red or with selection goes back to red side. So unlikely that we'll get exactly the same compositions coming through. But once again, now Flash Wolves have to put back-to-back wins together if they want to go challenge RNG for the MSI title. For Kingzone, this is a roster that internationally, to some degree, as individuals, has underperformed, has choked in major best-of-5s, and so they're the ones trying to live up to this aura, this identity that was built largely by SKT for the Korean region. So, on both sides of the coin, I want to know what we're looking at here for Game 4.
I actually think it makes it much easier from red side to find the counter pick for Khan. I think Kingzone now have a read that put him on the carries, give him the resources. This works much better for us, and I have a feeling that that's what they're going to look towards.
Yeah, and I want Kingzone to double down. Continue to send 3 people top lane 3 minutes into the game, get that CS advantage, because then they can get wave pressure and play their entire pressure game. That's what they're actually so good at. And for Flash Wolves to disrupt that, I actually don't think they go bot lane, because you don't get lane pressure by getting your bottom lane ahead. That doesn't help you with the waves mid game. Recommit to what worked in the group stage, camp the crap out of mid lane, get Maple going, and then they can win.
All right, Kingzone's finding themselves here in the semifinals. Is that what I'm hearing from you, Jet?
I think Kingzone will win it.
All right, there you have it. With the conclusion of MSI fast approaching, let us know which player you think has had the biggest impact during the entire tournament and why. Tweet out your answer, and we'll go over your responses. The crowd goes wild behind me at the end of the show. We'll see if any players from this series make you jump to Twitter as we prepare for Game 4. Flash Wolves versus Kingzone continues after the commercial break.
Now look to the bottom lane, Killer Instinct in. High damage on the prey. That's going to be the knockup. Godfish Lee Sin takes down his believers. Teleport comes in, Hanabi wants in. How is this fight going to go? Pillar completely stuffs him. Here's the engage, not yet the knockup, jumps to a ward. Found out though, and Prey will knock down the Godfish as the barrel's getting lower. They finally pick it up. No, the chase though. Maybe he can stop the recall. Yes, they all turn it around, and Maple bit off more than he could chew. And there's going to be the backline access. Killer Instinct did what Maple could not. This is the huge fight for Flash Wolves. BDD falls. Can they find the kills? Betty trying to kite, and he doesn't have it. Kingzone get the team fight. They make it happen. 2-1 will be the lead. One more for the final.
Welcome back to Assist of the Week. During the MSI play-in stage, Ascension Gaming pressed hard into Chaos Latin Gamers' base. Ascension then decided to hide in the shadows as KLG tried to reclaim their base. G4 then launched an amazing shockwave into the enemy team, which gave Ascension the perfect opportunity to press their way to victory.
Beautiful stuff from Ascension, and Lloyd is off tap right now. Looking to take down Slotus and quite grab it with a Remember. Big is going to be destroyed. Once again, Ascension rampage through KLG's base.